What's good, family? Just like that, we are back.
Hey, hey.
My name is Ro Lamb, and that is Kayla Raney. And this is another episode of the Raney and Ro Show.
The podcast for the professionally curious and creatively minded. One of these days, I'm actually going to get my cue. I think I've done it once, and this is episode 15.
It's all good. It's all good. We're gonna get it. So we're back. We missed last
We
week,
are.
but so glad to be back with you guys talking about a really cool topic. I think. I mean, a deep topic. We're gonna talk about privilege in
Yeah.
the indie industry, or I guess the creative industry as a whole.
Industry as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Creative industry, entertainment, all of that. But before we do that, I would like to talk about what has been inspiring us from the last 2 weeks. Okay.
Perfect. You know what's inspiring me?
Yes, yes,
The fact that I have power right now.
yes.
It is very important. I don't know how many of you guys are from Florida or are familiar with our monsoon season, but I've lived on and off in Florida for a couple of years now, and the house that my husband and I are in now has more power outages than I think I have ever experienced in Florida. And we're in monsoon season, like it's raining a lot, but I don't know if it's just like my neighborhood or what, but I am constantly having power outages. And when it went out last week, Tony actually suggested, he was like, well, we have candles. You could just like a stream with candles. It's like, I mean, we could get spooky with it, but I feel like that wouldn't be the best idea. So I'm just really happy that this whole week I have had consistent power despite it being very rainy because it's been an important deadlines week. So
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I'm glad you have power, so that's great. It's good to see you because I haven't
now
seen
let's get, I know, for like
you.
2 weeks.
Yes. So for me, what's been inspiring me
It's gonna be something
is,
super deep and thoughtful, like it always is.
well, I don't know if it's deep or thoughtful, but I've really been inspired by music lately. I
Okay.
Have you heard Jay-Z's new song?
I don't think I have. No.
So it's a DJ Khaled song,
Okay.
and it's with I think Rick Ross is on it. Low. It really doesn't matter who else
Yeah,
is
yeah.
on it.
All
The
all
fact
the all the guys. I love
that
it.
Jay Z
Yeah.
on it, and his verse is like it's like just 4 minutes of just fire,
Man,
just
is he
straight fire,
bringing back the Brooklyn again? Like, holy shit.
just going crazy. And so I heard it, and it just really like every now and again I get these moments where I'm like, man, I just really want to make music. Like I just really want to.
Yeah.
So I heard that song, and I'm like, I just really want to make a song. And so I've been writing over the last couple of days. I've been writing, and I'm supposed to be going to the studio on Saturday.
Woo.
And I just watched Nas's masterclass on Masterclass.
Oh shit.
So I'm just like feeling like
Look
super
at you.
ready to go, like ready to go. But it's also creating like this conflict inside me because I just feel like I just have all of these creative things that I just want to,
Mm,
and they're all centered around writing, but it's just like
right.
just all these things. And I haven't put any music out in, it's been like at least a decade. It's been a long time. Like most
Yeah.
people don't even
Yeah.
know that I was doing music. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I've recorded some things that let some people hear it. They're like, "Yo, you still got it." You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited to continue on
Oh.
that journey and just see what happens. So um, that's been inspiring me. That's been
Oh
inspiring me.
my God. As always, your inspiration like blows mine out of the water every week. I'm always like stupid stuff. I'm like, I read a really good like slutty book this week. It's inspiring me. I have power. It's inspiring me.
No, inspiration is inspiration. We got Armand in the building.
Armand, you
Taylor,
know my hair color is changing like every week.
what does it change to now?
Oh, now this is called Kayla hasn't put color in her hair in like 3 weeks. So that's the color.
Okay, gotcha. So it hasn't changed actually
No, no, it is. I mean, it has changed by default just because I
by
haven't been
nature,
putting color
by
in it.
nature.
Yeah. But I think, and maybe you guys can vote on this, I think I'm either going to do Lilu orange next or like mermaid teal. Those are my
Hey,
top
we got to
two.
get the poll going. Where's the poll?
I
Man,
know.
where is the poll? We're gonna have to figure that one out.
So are we gonna get a Raney and Ro rap? Is that what you're telling me is gonna happen this Saturday? Is that gonna be our new like theme song?
Oh, well, it probably won't happen Saturday.
You
It
can't get my hopes up like that.
probably won't happen Saturday. I mean, I'm hoping to. I'm planning to do a song, but I don't know if it'll be the Rainy and Row song.
Oh,
But
wow, wow.
I have been thinking about that. So
Okay.
we'll
All
see.
right.
We'll
I'm
see.
ready.
It's just so dip. Like I'm gonna go on a little tangent.
That's
I
what
get
we
into
do here.
these zones where I'm just like, it's like I'm trying to like balance like all of
Hmm.
these different things that I want to write. Like I'm writing
Yep.
screenplays, writing comic books, I'm working on a novel, I'm writing poetry. Oh, and I want to write music. And it's just
Hmm.
like this thing where it's like, well, how do I make time to do these things? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know.
Welcome to the world of being an artist, Ro.
I thought I had escaped it, but here I am
No,
once again.
never.
Anyway, it'll be good. I'm excited about it. We'll see what happens. So my tangent is over. Do you have anything else you want to say about what's been inspiring you these last 2 weeks?
I don't think so. I'm ready to dive in if you
Okay,
are.
awesome. Um, so we're talking about, as I said before, we're talking about privilege. And I think this is a really interesting topic, but I
Hmm.
think we put on our Instagram, we asked the question, I think we asked the question, what does privilege look like to you? Or like how
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
define privilege?
right.
And so I figured we could start there. I would throw that out to you, Kayla, and just see what your answer would be to that. What do you think?
I mean, it's a when we asked that to our audience, I looked up the dictionary like definition of privilege, and there's like four different ways that you can actually use that term, and each term has a different connotation and a different meaning to it. And I think that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons why it's such a difficult topic is because it can be interpreted in so many ways, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
to me, personally, when I'm thinking of privilege, specifically within the context of like our industry, I think of the advantages that some creators may have over or parallel to other creators. And for me, it's always comes down to like financial security. Like that's the one of the first things I think of when I think of privilege is like, do you have the security that is allowing you to create without fear of failure? You know what I mean? And maybe that's financial, maybe that's like family support, maybe that's like being already established in your career or having some type of like connections, but do you have the security to create fearlessly?
Mm,
And when I dig a little deeper into that, it also brings up, of course, automatically I think of, well, how does our personal identity also affect like this concept of privilege? Like I am a obviously like white queer cis female. How does that look in the spectrum of privilege, within our industry context? So I don't know, it's complicated. I don't have like an actual definition for you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you said a lot of good things there. I mean, I think it comes down to, for me at least, it comes down to just I think there are like natural advantages,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
maybe I should say like physical advantages where, you may be able to do certain things just physically, you know what I'm saying, that
Right.
somebody else who may have other like physical, things going on can't do, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that there's an advantage there. Then there's the financial piece where you have those advantages where you may have money to spend on certain things, or, just now as I was watching the masterclass, Nas was talking about how, when you start to make money, it opens up the ability for you to
Right.
be able to explore your craft.
Right.
So
Right.
that those resources give you the ability to do certain things and experiment, and as you said,
Mhm.
like fail, that you may
Mhm.
not have had before.
Right. Right.
But I think something interesting about privilege is that, um so I personally, I don't think it's a positive or a negative. I think it's just a
Yeah.
thing. It's like this
Yeah.
spectrum where, everybody has a certain set of like abilities or advantages that the next person doesn't have. And
Right.
so and so with that, I think a key point about privilege is that most times you can't even see your privilege,
Yeah.
because you don't even it's a privilege because you don't even have
Mhm.
to think about
Right. Right.
the fact that you could be inhibited that way. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Um, and so I think that's a major point when I think about privilege. I think about those things.
Mhm.
Um, and so I guess, have you ever thought about what your privileges might be? Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean all the time. I think we've talked about this before. Like I have kind of specifically curated my my career to work with people that I believe are not underprivileged, but underrepresented in the conversations that are happening around like privilege in the industry. Like I really believe in creating with marginalized voices because as like a queer woman, I count myself like amongst those voices. So it's always been important for me to purposefully seek out projects that are actively fighting negative narratives under that like dialogue. And that makes me look at myself and reflect like what privileges do I have automatically and what privileges do I have naturally as a result of that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I think, when I think about privileges for myself, I think a major privilege that I have is just the way that like my family is set up.
Mhm. Mhm.
My wife, runs her own business
Mhm.
and it's going like really well. And so that's afforded me the space,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
opportunity to write, you know what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
to be a stay-at-home dad. And I know the more I talk to creatives, I remember like before I really got into it, I would always wonder like, you have this idea, why you not just doing it? Why you not just moving on it? When I was young,
Right. Right.
as
Right.
you get older and you see what being an adult is all about, it's like, okay, it's not always as simple as just, let me sit down and do it. It's
Yeah.
things that you have to deal with. And so because of the way, my immediate family is set up, it affords me some of that space, you know what I'm
Right.
saying, to
Right.
create, and I think
Yeah.
that's very important. But I don't always, going back to my other point, I don't always see that. I don't always
Right.
recognize that. Sometimes it takes me, like, I have to actively sit down and look and say, yeah, I don't have the same, situation as other, creators do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's like a really great, I mean, I think that's such a good thing to be conscientious of because like I have a very similar situation, right? Like I I tell people all the time I would never be where I am if it wasn't for my husband. Like 3 years ago when I started Rainy Days Art, my husband and I sat down and we had the conversation of like, okay, it's time. It's time for me, like my husband, to like be the breadwinner, like carry us financially to give me the space and the sort of freedom to experiment and fail without, repercussion. And it gave me what I needed to actually build my business as Rainy Days Art. I would never have been able to do that. I had been trying to do that for years prior to when we made that decision, and I'd always had to work like multiple jobs, and then I was working on my art like super late at night, pulling all-nighters, like any spare moment that I had, and it was super exhausting. And even working as hard as I did to try and make it work, it wasn't until I had that support from my husband that, like, all right, we're going to do this, that it was able to happen. And I think people people forget about that when they're thinking about, like you said, as a creative, it can be difficult to look at other people and their successes and feel like, oh, I'm not doing as much as them. I'm not achieving as much as them. Well, you don't know. Like maybe they have a very different situation than you do, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So that brings me to another question about responsibility, the responsibility of creatives with certain privileges, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess we'll bring up. I don't want to name names. There's been a there's been
Oh, you
a
guys know.
pretty big story in the
Uh-huh.
news about an author
Hmm.
who has a book. Actually, her book is out now. Her book is out now, I believe.
Oh, it's officially out. Okay.
It is out now,
Yeah.
yeah. And there was some controversy around her, the way she portrays herself and
Hmm.
portrays her
Hmm.
story.
Hmm.
Um, and come to find out, she didn't really get it out of the mud. It doesn't seem like she got it out of the mud, right? So she made it seem like, she went through all of these things and she was,
Yeah.
went through the trials and the fire and the tribulation.
Yeah.
But we find out that her sister's worth like $200 million and all these different
Yes.
things, right?
Yes.
So my question, I think the question that we have to answer is, what's the responsibility of somebody with privilege? Should
Hmm.
should we divulge how much should we divulge about the advantages that we have or we don't have?
Right.
What do you
Right.
think?
Oh, one, I think it's really funny to watch you navigate trying to say that as without trying to start so much drama. I can just see you like, how do I say this in a way that we aren't going to have people yell at us?
Right.
Or have her lawyers contact us.
Yeah, I don't want to get sued.
Everyone, knock on wood, knock on
Right.
wood. But no, look, I think it's an interesting question because my first thought is that I personally am like a very private person. Um, I have very specific feelings about how much I share on the internet, like on my social media. If you guys follow my social media, you know that I'm terrible at it. And I think a lot of that comes though because, and this is going to age me, I come from a generation that didn't grow up on social media. I didn't get Facebook until I was in like my junior year of high school or something like that. And Instagram didn't come around until I was in my like sophomore year of college. So that is like a culture and like an expectation that I think has come around as a result of social media because people are used to being able to have sort of unfiltered access to people's lives and their sort of like background stories, right? I don't know if I would be comfortable like telling the world like this is full transparency. Yeah, Armand knows. Armand knows how like paranoid I am. I am very weird about privacy and like I play my cards really close to my chest.
Clearly, this is clear.
Yes. um, but I think that we do exist in this this age where there's an expectation of transparency, and I am starting to feel myself like changing my mind again. I am starting to feel myself changing my mind about what kind of responsibility you have as a creator to be transparent about the process behind you getting to a certain point of success. Because, like what happened with this author, you are letting so many people feel like they have that within their grasp as easily as it looks like you've done it. It's kind of like lying by omission almost, right? Like I kind of feel like you're tiptoeing that line, and it's tough to tell where that line is, but when you are purposefully not transparent about the fact that, you did have a lot of financial backing. You did have way more advantages. And you kind of painted this picture of like, I'm a struggling creator just like you. When, maybe she wants you to think that she's like a barista working two jobs and writing like by, midnight oil at night and has like worked her ass off for this, when in reality, it kind of came together for her no matter what. And I think that's what people are more angry about, is the fact that like they were led to believe something else, versus if she hadn't spun that narrative, I don't think people would be as angry, right? Because there are plenty of creators, like successful artists and authors, who come from very privileged backgrounds, especially, or like, acting is a great example of that. How many actors were just like born into the industry, and you don't find out about it until you're like reading some BuzzFeed article and you're like, oh shit, this person is like this person's daughter, and like no wonder they're a huge superstar now. It's the same concept of like, you just don't want to be misled.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
guess,
me. I don't know. You could have a totally different
yeah,
perspective.
I think my perspective is more about like the process of um I also
Yeah, we
want to
do.
I just want to say I love you too, Megan. You didn't tell me you love me, but I love you too, Megan. Um, I think that I'm thinking about it more about the process of
Mhm.
being a creator. Like when I first saw her, and I'm thinking like how, she's standing like in a room with like hundreds of thousands of pre-orders, and um and so I'm like, how did she do it? Like,
Yeah,
what's the secret sauce? Like,
right.
you just pop up out of nowhere, and you just got all these fans. Like, how did you do? Like, I need to know the secret. Um,
Yeah,
and so when I see that, it's like it low key is a little discouraging, because it's like I don't know how I'm going to do that, right? So
right,
now I'm going
right.
through the process of, okay, you're still a writer, you're a great writer, you don't have to be her, you don't have to do what she
Yeah,
did, just keep, I'm
yeah.
going through the process, and then you find out, well, her family is this, that, and the third.
Hmm,
They have this.
hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
And like, I don't fault her for that. Like, hey, you got that's cool, but
right.
I couldn't recreate that if I wanted to.
Exactly, exactly.
But a side note to that though is that, so my younger brother plays in the NBA, and
Hmm.
so um, if he said, "Ro, I'm gonna give you $1 million for your business, do with it however you're gonna do it,"
Yeah, yeah.
I would feel obligated to make that a part of my story, like make
Right, right.
of the journey that I'm on,
Yeah,
because I wouldn't want other artists to, writers or artists or whatever, I wouldn't want them to feel like, I have something that they don't have. The only thing that I may have
yeah.
that they don't have is my sibling has a lot of money. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right.
I would feel obligated. I would feel a responsibility to make that a part of my story. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's kind of what we talk about when we're talking about, the responsibility of a creator. Exactly. Like Megan is saying, like we we are put in a position when creators like this woman that the news is happening around, we are put in a position as creators to almost, it almost like levels us down because we can't, there's no physical, tangible, possible way for us to be sitting in that room with like 100,000 pre-order copies. It's just there's in only in a parallel universe can that possibly happen. But because she has done it and she has portrayed it in a way that has like normalized it and made it like, well, this is what success should look like, it makes our successes feel lesser
Right.
and look lesser, and that kind of brings, you and I had talked a little bit about like the Barnes and Noble thing that's happening right now, where
Yes.
they're saying they will not stock books unless you can prove how successful they're going to be. Well, that automatically gives people like this woman huge advantages over marginalized authors, indie authors, self-publishers, like how it is already so hard to succeed in this industry. And you just keep making it this much harder when you start putting these ideas of success on top of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to be clear about Barnes and Nobles, from what I understand
Yeah.
and what I've read, I think it, so they talked about hardcovers, and they're only
Yeah.
taking hardcovers from the top two sellers, the top 2% of sellers at the publishing companies. So
Uh-huh.
it's not just affecting, the debut authors or even just the marginalized authors. It's
Right.
affecting everybody. Like you could have had success, and if it's not the top of the top,
Exactly.
you're not getting in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so going back to the author we were talking about before, she automatically has an advantage because she's
Yeah.
going to have, first of all, she already has the hundreds of thousands of pre-orders to show
Yes.
people are buying the book, right? But then
Exactly.
also she has relationships that she can leverage and say,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is how I know I'm going to be able to be here. I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to talk to these people, and this is what I can do, right? And so it just exacerbates this, like you said, this idea of, if you're already struggling to get in, it's just even harder to get in now. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Um, and I think the Barnes and Noble situation is just really interesting. Just seeing some of the authors respond to, this one young woman. She said, her debut book, she's been knowing like all year she's going to be in Barnes and Nobles in the fall, and finds out
I
2 weeks before
Yes.
her book is supposed to be in Barnes and Nobles, oh, they're not buying your book anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. No,
Like,
I mean, I think of like my clients who are like, oh my God, Kayla, I can't wait until the day that I can like walk into a Barnes and Noble and see your artwork on my cover. And like that is exactly what I was thinking of when I read that article. I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna get to like have the experience of walking into a Barnes and Noble and seeing my art on someone's cover. My client who did all of the work is not gonna get to have that experience. Like how devastating is that?
yes,
Addison, yeah, yeah. It shapes the value of what success looks like, but also what others view our success as, which is a really good point. We spend as creatives so much time kind of defending our choice to make a career as creatives already. So if our success doesn't look like this, it makes it even harder for us to sort of justify, why should you pay me money? Am I really a qualified professional if I don't look like this? It brings into question our level of success, our like career choices.
yeah, yeah. And I also wanted to touch on this really quick.
Yeah.
Megan says, we work harder than the privilege, but we prevail. I think what's interesting about this comment is that the reality is we can't really know how hard they're working or they're not working, right?
Yeah.
But what we do know is that no matter how hard we work, we're not going to be able to recreate that overnight. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And that's
Exactly.
the point about privilege. The point about privilege is, sure, you might be working hard, but you didn't have to work hard to get
Right.
what was in front of you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's just really it's really interesting. It's really interesting. Um, oh, we talked about this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Do you
Well,
have
and I
any?
think,
Oh, go ahead.
oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, gosh.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm building off of what you were saying, how that is what like the bones of privilege comes down to, right? Is like these resources, this advantage that you have, making it harder for other people to work towards that idea of success because it just can't happen for us. And I feel like that's pervasive through all industries, not just through our creative industry. Because I think like specifically, Megan, I know for a fact, and I both have worked for a long time in like very male dominated industries. And as women, you have to yell twice as loud. You have to perform twice as well. You have to push twice as hard to even just be heard, seen, and respected as much as your male peers. And that's just a fact. That's not, we're not going to get into like the feminism debate here, but that is just a statistic fact. And this ordeal that's happening with this author feels like it just creates more division and furthers that narrative, which is like so harmful for us.
To be clear, what creates that?
Oh, so this you know she's not acknowledging the fact that she has these advantages in place that
Mm,
normally would make it much more difficult for a creator to achieve what she has. And
yeah.
I mean, if we want to like look at it specifically from like women indie creators point of view, you know, it is statistically proven that women have a harder time selling books in certain genres, have a harder time getting slots in better speaking positions, those kind of things in this industry. And if you're looking at her and you're saying, well, if she can do that, then I can do that, but you're not privy to the fact that she has all of these connections and this built-in sort of financial system that has put her in that position ahead of everybody else, it begins to become discouraging. It begins to be like, well, if I can't do that, then am I really successful? Yeah, like Addison says, or you have to pretend to not be a woman to have your work viewed as readable or usable or respected.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, just going back to the Barnes and Noble situation, I was a little torn about the Barnes and Noble situation because I was thinking, I understand why they would do that from a business perspective.
Right, right.
And so then my question becomes, how would that author that we've been talking about this whole time, how could she leverage her privilege to help other authors, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to your point, specifically other women,
Mm-hmm.
walk through these doors. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
answer to that. I don't know the
Yeah.
answer to that. But I feel like there is an answer and there is a solution. And I think that's part of what the responsibility or the obligation of somebody with privilege has. That's part of the responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 is to open the doors for others that don't have those advantages. Yeah, we are, Megan.
Or
Armand, that is a fantastic idea.
this is a great idea. Let me take a
Yes,
note.
we're writing it down. Ro, you're the writer. You're in
Yes.
charge. I'll make
Oh,
it look pretty. We're
thank
good to
you,
go.
Mom, for giving us more work. No, but
Yeah,
that's
come on,
great.
Armand.
That is great. That is great. Kayla, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say just about this topic before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Should we link like an article or something in our social media so that we can people can kind of get in the know if they don't know what we're talking about?
I think we
I don't
should. I
Okay,
think
I don't think
maybe,
we'll get in trouble for it, so I think we'd be good to go.
yeah, no, I agree. I think maybe that should be,
Yeah.
if we do a newsletter, maybe our first newsletter.
Ooh, ooh. All right, all right. We got a secondsies on that. Perfect.
All right. Another poll coming up. Um,
Man.
yeah. So, yeah, I guess. So we'll be doing that. We'll be putting the links up on
Yeah.
social
Yeah.
media. Um, yeah, we didn't say names. We didn't say
Hmm.
names. We were trying to protect the innocent. Oh, so real quick before we get out of here, that is something that I did forget to I forgot to mention.
Uh-huh.
She has, obviously there are people upset with her and they're mad and they're going through this whole thing. And so Kayla was telling me before we got on,
Yeah, I
you've been
do.
seeing the reviews. She had
Hmm.
really great
Hmm.
reviews of her book, like the advanced reader copies,
Hmm.
and she had great reviews. And then when this news came out,
Yeah.
people started flooding with bad reviews and it started taking her down. And I
Hmm.
saw
Hmm.
on Instagram, she did a live with her friend, and I'm just seeing trolls in the
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
Why is your book this? And did your sister do this? And just going down the list. And I was just like, I think this is on the flip side. Like I understand
Hmm.
the anger and the hurt behind it, right? But on the flip side, I'm like, I don't know if she deserves to be attacked.
Right.
You know
Or
what I
to
mean?
have her like life ruined because of it. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's something to like think about if you do like follow the links that we're going to put in our social media and you start going down the rabbit hole there if you go especially if you're a TikToker and you get onto the algorithm where they're just going to feed you a ton of reaction videos to this particular instance. A lot of them are starting to kind of shift their perspective because they're seeing how vicious people are being about this. And I think they're kind of like, look, it could still be a really good book. She could actually like deserve the hype that she was like creating around it, but because there's sort of this like scandal around her not being transparent about the fact that she wasn't kind of the struggling artist that she portrayed herself to be, people are intentionally sabotaging her. Um, and I think that is something to like reflect on.
yeah, yeah. Um. So yeah. So with that, that's our show. I think we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
We love y'all. This was great. If you enjoyed this, like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok,
Yep.
potentially a newsletter coming soon.
Potentially a newsletter. Apparently, it is a fan favorite.
Yes. But yeah, just check us out. We just appreciate, this time with y'all. Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much
we
for showing
do.
up and kicking it with us for a little bit. Kayla, do you want to plug anything? You want to let anybody know anything about anything?
Well, apparently, I'm dyeing my hair teal next week. It is
The votes
the
are in.
the vote. The vote is in.
The vote. The vote. The vote
Oh,
is.
I got two votes for teal.
Oh,
Here
we
we
got
go.
two.
Megan only says that because she also has purple hair, and people confuse us for each other.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
I
I
mean,
think she's
I'll
ready
vote
for me to
teal. I'll
change my
vote
hair
teal.
color.
I'll vote.
Yeah? All right. Three votes for teal.
All right. All right. But yeah, thank you guys so much for showing up.
Thank you.
We will see you all next week. Again, like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this. And with that, we are going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much.
Bye,
Love you.
guys.